aliabdaal's take on quitting YouTube. Let's see what he has to say.
On the surface, YouTube seems to be a dream job. There's a lot of people who aspire to be YouTubers, who aspire to riches and fame and flexibility, and you can work from wherever you want. But the people who are there, a lot of them seem to be quitting for various reasons. A big reason that a lot of YouTubers seem to be citing for quitting is burnout to some degree or another. Like whether they're just really tired of all of this, they've been doing it for 7+ years and they're just like, they can't be bothered to do it anymore.
I'm so tired. There's nothing in my life right now except work.
Or they feel super stressed about it, or they feel super depressed about it.
I don't get any satisfaction from the type of work that I do here anymore.
Damn.
And there seem to be a few different reasons that YouTubers are citing for why they feel like they're experiencing this burnout. The first one is you sort of trade a 9-to-5 job for a 24/7 job.
That's really any entrepreneurship endeavor, a 24/7 job rather than 9 to 5. And I have a lot of ideas as to how to make this more sustainable, but I'll save those for after hearing what Ali has to say. But keep in mind, it's not just YouTube that's 24/7, entrepreneurship is 24/7. And YouTube content creation is a form of entrepreneurship.
I've definitely experienced this where back when I had a real job, I would go home from work, and unless I was really worried about like making a mistake that might kill someone, I was able to get home from work and I was able to switch off. I was able to relax. I was able to do other things without work being always on my mind. But when I started my business, back when I was like 19, from then on, every waking hour has basically been spent thinking and strategizing and like working on in some way the business. When I'm in the shower, I'm thinking about my YouTube channel and I'm thinking about my business. When I'm at the gym, I'm thinking about the YouTube channel and business. Even when I'm in conversations with friends at a restaurant or a board games night, part of my brain is thinking about like content ideas.
And the fact that to succeed as an entrepreneur, it does help to think about your business, ideas, strategies, etc. very frequently. It just highlights how important it is to do something that you truly enjoy. Because imagine going to something that you think is gonna pay the most or has the best opportunity, but you don't love it, and then competing with the guy who does love the thing, who is willing to put in all that extra time and effort and energy. Who's gonna come out on top? Who's gonna be the top competitor in that space?
A second big reason why people seem to be quitting is this feeling of being on a never-ending content hamster wheel. The algorithms are changing all the time. Audience preferences are changing all the time.
Which is true, because the algorithms will punish you if you're not consistent with your uploads.
Every single month, each of these different social media platforms are becoming more and more saturated, which means they're becoming more and more competitive. If you've built a career on this, you sort of feel like, well, I can't stop now. I have to just keep going. I have to make the next video and the next video and the next video. We sort of feel the sense of, I can't afford to take a break. Because if I take a break, well, technically YouTube says that taking a break is fine for your channel, but I know that, if I didn't upload for a month, then maybe my audience would forget me because there's all this other content. And then maybe when my video comes out, I don't know, the algorithm might not notify the right people. And there's this whole thing that makes it feel you have to keep coming up with new stuff. And it's just on to the next one and the next and the next. We sort of feel the sense of, I can't afford to take a break. Because if I take a break, well, technically YouTube says that taking a break is fine for your channel, but I know that, if I didn't upload for a month, then maybe my audience would forget me because there's all this other content. And then maybe when my video comes out, I don't know, the algorithm might not notify the right people. And there's this whole thing that makes it feel you have to keep coming up with new stuff and you're never allowed to take a break. If you're not growing, you're declining. And I guess I have to repeat the content. And like most people don't watch most of the videos, so repeating the content is totally fine. And you get into this sort of never-ending hamster wheel of content creation. Added to that, you also have the feeling if you are lucky enough to make a living doing this sort of thing, talking to a camera in your bedroom, you think, damn, I've got it really good. I don't want to go back to my day job. I've got freedom, fun, flexibility. I can do what I want. I've got it so good. I don't want to let it go. And this feeling of if I don't stop working, it might all go away is a really terrifying feeling that keeps up so many YouTubers at night, including me.
This actually makes me think of some buddies of mine who do car YouTube as their full-time gig. And they're much, much larger. I have a car YouTube channel for those who don't know. It's right up here called Jabal on Cars. We're at like 8,000 subscribers right now, really tiny, even though I've been doing it for 2 years. But these other guys, hundreds of thousands of subs and they're making a living from it. And anytime you take your hobby and you make it your living, your livelihood, you are removing some level of magic, some level of exploration and fun, because now there's the pressure that this needs to perform, this is what's putting food on the table, and if you want to save up for a house, for a car, for your kid's college fund, etc., there's that pressure constantly pushing you to go harder and harder. And a lot of people who go into cars and car YouTube, they love vehicles. Like I'm a huge car nut, model cars back here, Ayrton Senna helmet, Formula One, my car channel, etc. But I don't want to make it my livelihood because I know it'll lose the magic. And these guys, they they have to remind themselves to say, hey, don't get cynical because you're reviewing the next RAV4, whatever generic CUV appliance vehicle that's not as exciting as something that's designed for enthusiasts. Mazda Miata, Lotus Emira, Porsche 911, etc. And I know some people say, choose a job or work you love and you'll never work a day in your life. I would caution the opposite, which is to say, if you have certain hobbies and passions that bring you so much joy and fulfillment, it's fine to make them a side hustle, like I've done with Jabal and Cars, but be cautious about making it your main thing.
Another thing that some YouTubers have cited is because when you become successful on a platform, you then start to treat it more like a business. And as you treat it more like a business, you realize that delegation is a thing that you can do. You can maybe delegate your video editing. You can maybe delegate like coming up with video ideas. You can maybe hire a thumbnail designer to do the thumbnails because thumbnails are really important. And before you know it, you have outsourced and optimized the fun out of the job that you have.
For those who are making this mistake, like that is such an obvious and
optimized.
I didn't realize that was a problem. Obviously outsource the things that you don't want to do, not the things that you do want to do. I'm not going to outsource someone driving cars because I love driving the cars and recording my thoughts. I'm not going to outsource someone sitting down here and doing reaction videos because I like talking just off the cuff, sharing my thoughts. Outsource the things you don't want to do. I don't enjoy editing, so I have editors that help me with that. I don't enjoy going on sales calls, so for my business Med School Insiders, we have a few different salespeople that handle those calls. I don't enjoy ads and marketing, so like we have ads people that manage the paid ads for Google and whatever for our various companies. So outsource the things that you don't want to do. Why would you ever outsource the stuff that you do love? That makes no sense.
You have turned it from a thing that you were once using to express your creativity and where you were overjoyed about the fact that you could provide value to an audience, and you've turned it into a job where you've gone from a creator to a manager. And most creators do not enjoy being managers. Most creators are not very good at being managers.
Yeah, managing people is tough, but there's a book, Traction, that I recommend, and it talks about this system because if you are the visionary for the business, you need like the implementer, the person who's gonna help carry out your ideas and help manage the people. And it's hard to do both. It's hard to be the visionary and the implementer. But if you can get an implementer like a COO as an example, me getting a COO has been really a big game changer for my businesses because I can focus more on the stuff that I want to do and that only I can do. And he can then handle managing people, which he is better at than I am anyways, but I'm also learning a lot about managing people because of course it's good to be well-rounded and improve your skill set.
And so when I had to manage people, I started to think, oh my God, like, I've created this prison for myself where I feel like I'm on a constant kind of content hamster wheel. I have to keep on churning out the videos. I've hired people to take aspects of the job away from me so that I can make more videos, but now I need to make more videos to keep up the salaries of those people who I've hired. And also now I need to manage those people I've hired, and they're people and people have like their own issues where I now need to worry about their personal development, their professional development. I need to make sure they're happy. I need to make sure I'm giving them enough work. And if I want to take a break, well, I'm the one filming the videos, and so the editor won't have anything to edit, but I'm still paying the editor, and so like I really shouldn't take a break. And this whole thing just, it's like the treadmill just keeps on continuing, just at a higher and higher pace. So you feel like you're having to run to just keep up with the fact that you now have a team to support. You have people's livelihoods that are at stake. You might have people who have quit their jobs and who have mortgages that are based on the salary that you're paying them. So you even more feel like, oh, I can't take a break. I better not screw this up, which ties into the whole constant hamster wheel.
One thing about the treadmill is that you feel like you need to constantly be producing. One thing that I like to do is I'll batch a few videos. So like right now I'm recording several videos. And the cool thing is if you're not editing your own videos, there are certain channels where like they need to be the ones editing. But let's say you have a channel where you're not editing your own videos, you can then have your editors edit that at their pace and you then only review the draft. I find reviewing drafts really fun because I'm like, oh, like, let's see what creative direction did they take this? How does the video look? And so I don't mind reviewing the videos. And that way you're reducing the likelihood you're gonna feel like you're on a hamster wheel because you're not having to do it constantly every single day or multiple times per week. You get a lot of it done in a week or two and then you chill for a few weeks and then you do it again.
You have periods of boom and you have periods of bust. There are times when the channel is going really well and the business is flourishing, and then there are the times where it's not. And in those times where it's not, you start to feel depressed. You start to feel like, oh my God, are my videos even valuable anymore? Like no one's watching my stuff. Oh God, like the channel is dying. And that feeling when something was growing and is now declining is a really, really, really hard feeling to come to terms with, where we have this intrinsic need for social status and for the approval of others because we're human and it's how humans have evolved. Like even in a small group, if for example you have a group of 8 friends and maybe like 7 of those friends got into like a really good university and then you got into like a less good university and you feel like your social status has been like reduced in the group. It sounds trivial, but it's a really painful experience.
This is for a couple reasons, right? We get used to whatever that baseline is, that hedonic adaptation. So if we're getting certain levels of praise and making certain levels of money and then we lose that, that's way worse than even though you started here, you're actually better off than where you are now, but because you came up here and now you're down here, it feels much worse than being down here, because here you had the potential, you had the ability to move up. You weren't spoiled by this higher level. And when it comes to other people doing better than you that are in your circle, yeah, because you just feel inferior, because you think that these are the people that you should be keeping up with. You, as humans, we are status-seeking creatures. And some people do that with cars and money. Some people do that with virtue signaling on social media, saying that money doesn't matter. It's all about status in various forms. And if you feel like you're lower status, evolutionarily, it is beneficial for you to now feel negative in some way to drive you forward and change your behavior to then improve your status so that you have the higher chances of reproduction and whatnot.
Like lobsters.
The higher you go up in the dominance hierarchy, the better the chance you have of getting laid.
I had this experience in 2016, 3 years into running my first business, 6med. And for the first 3 years, we were growing and growing and growing. And then in year 4, the revenue declined by a little bit. I mean, and it sounds weird, like, you know, a business while I was in medical school doing 140K, 150K, like what difference does it really make? But the reduction, the fall, the decline in the thing caused me to have this whole spiral of negativity and this whole spiral of like, oh, what am I doing with my life? And I came to a few realizations, but it took me like months of journaling about this and thinking about it and talking to people about it, reading books about it, to come to terms with what on the surface was only a 10K drop in revenue.
Another thing about dwindling views, if you imagine that almost all of your revenue comes from one place, just YouTube, just Instagram, whatever it is, and your views and sponsorships, etc., then performance declining, everything else follows that, which is why it's a very fragile place to be. And I'm kind of risk averse. Compared to the average doctor, I'm probably more risk tolerant because of the route I took. But in the grand scheme of things, I consider myself pretty risk averse. And for that reason, I've always kept in mind that the algorithm is this fickle thing. And I can work on making better and better videos. And you look at the videos on Med School Insiders now versus years ago, barely recognizable, right? I mean, the content is still there, but like the visuals and graphics, we spent so much time and energy improving that, but even still, we're still growing, but growth has slowed a lot. But it doesn't really bother me because that never was the main plan, right? Relying on something as fickle and as fragile as the algorithm and how they're gonna treat you, I don't like being in that position. So for us, social media has always just been a form of content marketing. We don't really rely on it to pay the bills. Content marketing, we're providing value. We're showing people, hey, we have a lot of value to offer. Here's a lot of stuff for free. And if you want to work with us one-on-one, then you can visit our website and buy our services and work with us one-on-one and buy our services, buy our courses. And even then, people don't just find us from YouTube and Instagram, they find us from Google search. So we have blog posts, we have paid ads on Google and Instagram. And I think the key thing I'm trying to say here is if you have all your eggs in one basket, then anything that happens to that basket is super stressful. But if you spread it out across and you diversify a little bit, and if something is lagging and it goes down, but the other things are doing fine, it's not really that big of a deal.
There is a story of a farmer who has a goose, and he realizes, oh my goodness, the golden goose lays these golden eggs. And then he takes the eggs to market and they make lots of money. And then the next day, the goose lays some more eggs. And he takes the egg to market and it makes loads of money. And then the farmer gets rich. And then one day the farmer decides, you know what? This goose has got a lot of golden eggs inside it. So why don't I just kill the goose and then I'll open up the goose and I'll take all these golden eggs and then I'll be super rich. And so he kills the goose, he opens it up, and lo and behold, he finds no golden eggs. The goose is the production capacity. It is the asset that creates the production, the golden eggs. All of life and work and business and everything is a balancing act between the golden eggs and the goose, between the production and the production capacity. The videos that you produce each day or each week or each month are the golden eggs, and the asset that produces the videos, i.e. the creator themselves and their team, is the goose. And the thing that all these social media platforms encourage is a focus on the golden eggs and not thinking about the health of the goose. It's a focus on what's that next video? How does that next video perform to the other videos that you've released? And there is no analytic that is around like the health of the channel overall, or the health and mental health and stability and sustainability of the creator who's doing the work.
I have a lot of creator friends who are earlier on in their journey, and what I tell them time and time again is sustainability. Don't feel inspired for 1 month and be like, I'm gonna start doing 3 videos a week, and then after a month you burn out and then you go down to 1, or maybe you skip several weeks. That's not how you're gonna grow. You need to operate at a threshold that you know you can sustain long term. Even though you feel like you can do more, sure, do a little bit more, but don't actually release that video yet. Create a buffer so that you're not stressing last minute to create a video because now you have one already in the backlog. Some members on my team were urging me to start a podcast and, oh, hey, we'll like help with all this stuff. And all you have to do is sit down and record for 1 hour per week. And I was like, no, that's just like not sustainable. Like I could do it this week, I could do it next week, but I know long-term, I don't want to put 1 hour or 2 hours every single week indefinitely to create a podcast because I need to keep sustainability in mind. I already got the Med School Insiders YouTube channel, I got the Kevin Jabal MD channel, I got the Jabal and Cars channel, I got Mem the business, I got Med School Insiders the business. And the only way this is possible is by thinking through things through the lens of, okay, how can I make this sustainable? And when can I operationalize things? When can I systematize things? When can I get help, right? Having editors, I couldn't make all these videos every single week across all 3 brands if I didn't have an amazing team of editors and a producer and a director of content.
Creating the golden eggs of YouTube videos is a pretty freaking sick job. It's a dream job in many ways. But how do I make sure I'm not neglecting the goose itself? I.e. my own physical health, my own mental health, my own enjoyment of the process, like the whole thing feeling enjoyable and sustainable for me?
I guess I haven't intentionally asked how do I keep it more enjoyable. What I ask is how do I outsource the stuff I don't like to do? Because if I take care of the negative, then normally what's left over is the positive. So a slightly different way of getting to the same point. And the other thing with both this channel and Jabal and Cars is because I don't put so much pressure on the channels performing to a certain threshold, I experiment a lot and I just try different things. So we did some smart ring comparisons recently, Aura Ring, Ultra Human, and RingCon right up here. And it's cool, it's fun. I enjoy trying out different gadgets like that. I have a Whoop band here I'm doing some testing on. I got an Apple Watch right here I'm doing some testing on. And these are things that I'm allowing my interest to guide me rather than just optimizing my video content and strategy based on what is performing well on YouTube. And same thing with cars. I mean, I still lose money with every single video because the channel is small and we don't make that much in revenue, but it's worth it for me because like it's so much fun. It's reinforcing me to do it again and again and again. And I drove a Porsche 997 GT3 RS 4.0, which is insane. Those cars go for $600 to $1 million currently on the used market, which is absurd. And I have the opportunity to drive it hard in the canyons and make a video about it. I'm like, yes, I will pay to keep doing this. This is amazing.
When we're focusing on growth and optimization, we stop focusing on having fun. We stop focusing on feeling good about the videos. All of this sort of stuff is at risk of optimizing the fun out of the game. One way to keep the goose alive while it's creating golden eggs is to make the process enjoyable and keep it fun. How do we help Ali have more fun filming these videos? Because if Ali stops enjoying the process, then the whole business will die. There is a book called Finite and Infinite Games, which is basically in life, there are 2 types of games. There are finite games and then there are infinite games. A finite game is played with the intention of winning the game. But then you have infinite games, where the goal is not to win the game, the goal is to keep on playing the game.
So finite infinite game, very similar concept to telic versus autotelic activities. So an autotelic activity is the activity is the end in and of itself. You are doing the activity because you want to be doing the activity. It's fun, it's enjoyable, whatever. Telic is a means to an end. Studying OCHEM, so you can get into medical school, right? That's probably not an autotelic activity for you.
Goal is to just simply continue being able to play the game. YouTube is now an infinite game. And now I'm at a point where I could turn YouTube into a finite game where I'm thinking about a scoreboard and thinking about getting to the next subscriber milestone, be like, oh, we're at 5 million, let's go for 10 million and all that kind of stuff. And treating it as a finite game that has a scoreboard. Or I could approach it like an infinite game. And this is how I'm trying to approach YouTube.
And I think the key thing here is to let your own enjoyment guide the process because you can change your mind about these things. It's okay. When I first started Med School Insiders, scripting videos, recording videos, animating videos by myself, those were all super fun. And then at a certain point I was like, dude, actually within a few months, I was like, I don't really like animating these videos. And then I got an animator because I realized someone else should be doing it. Plus I was doing fucking plastic surgery, which is already 80 plus hours every week. And since then, things have changed. So we started adding services, we expanded the business, and now part of the fun is learning how to become a better entrepreneur. And when you face these different challenges, okay, how do you make the best experience for a customer? How do you start improving the satisfaction ratings? There's different KPIs you can focus on. And what tends to get stale and dull and boring is when you only do one thing forever and ever and you don't feel like you're improving. But if you feel like you're improving, if you keep getting better and better at making videos, or you keep getting better and better at becoming an entrepreneur, or you get better and better at being a driver, which is why I spend so much time on the racetrack or on my sim rig, there's a certain level of enjoyment you get just by seeing yourself improve.
Why are we playing this game at all? Why bother continuing to make YouTube videos? Basically, every YouTuber I know has an existential crisis about their YouTube channel and their business about every 3 months, where they question, why am I doing this again?
I've actually never had that. I did have it at one point with this channel because I was like, oh man, now I got 3 channels and like, do I have enough time? spread between all three, or should I just do med school instead of just the car channel? And essentially what it came down to was just like hiring more people to systematize things and having a YouTube producer and such, so that I could spend more time just producing content and not as much time managing editors, right? But I've been doing Med School Insider since October 2016. I've been doing this channel since about a year later, like October of 2017, I think, maybe a little bit after that. And the car channel for 2 years now. And again, I think part of the reason is when you make it sustainable and you don't put too much pressure on it, it's more fun.
One problem that I do sometimes see is where I have lots of friends who do YouTube, but they would not do YouTube if they won the lottery. They are doing YouTube primarily for money. If they didn't care about making money, they would honestly not do YouTube. This is a harder place to be because now the reason you're doing it is for the money, and it has now become a job. It is very hard for something to feel like play or to feel like fun if the primary reason for doing it is for the money.
Yeah, but again, the issue with what he's saying is that you can't just call something fun and like pretend it's fun if that is your livelihood. It is now your livelihood. Like if you're gonna make YouTube your primary thing and you're gonna have that pressure, don't allow things like lifestyle creep to come in too fast. Because if your channel grows and your lifestyle grows with it, and to sustain that lifestyle, you need to keep your channel operating at a very similar level, but then it declines, now you're fucked. So if you're gonna rely on something that's so fragile like social media, that algorithm, and you're not gonna branch out to other ways to diversify, right? Then as your channel grows, let your lifestyle grow much slower so that if something happens here, you're still chilling because you're still living off of 30, 40 grand a year, even though now you're making 3, 4, 5 times what you were making previously.
We connect to intrinsic motivation when we feel like there is a purpose behind the thing that we're trying to do. The 3 things that Dan Pink talks about are autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Freedom and flexibility to do what we want. You kind of get that in YouTube to an extent if you don't worry too much about the algorithm and you don't worry too much about what the audience wants. Mastery, the feeling that you are getting better at the thing. That is profoundly addictive. That profoundly leads to intrinsic motivation. You can get that through YouTube by trying to make your videos a little bit better over time. And purpose, the feeling that the thing that we are doing has a purpose beyond just ourselves.
I like this a lot. Mastery, like I was talking about, the satisfaction you get and the reward from improving. Purpose, feeling like you're doing something beyond yourself, because if you feel like all you're doing is satisfying your own primal instincts and seeking pleasure, hedonism, at a certain point you start to wonder like, what's the actual point of all this? And the nice thing with purpose is that if you actually focus on serving others, on helping others, a lot of things within a business and within your personal life too just fall into place. If you provide so much value, people are gonna come buy your stuff. If you're focused on your family and giving your kids a great upbringing, that's gonna give you purpose. And the autonomy part, when you don't have autonomy, you're so much more likely to burn out because you don't feel like you actually have the impact and the direction on your life that you'd expect. And I've seen a lot of this actually in the hospital back when I was doing surgery.
The point of this video is service, is to help the person who is watching the video on the other end. What I imagine when I'm planning a video is I imagine that I am a university lecturer and I do a weekly lecture series titled How to Build a Life You Love. And every week I show up and I deliver a lecture, but I'm delivering it to a lecture hall with 100 people and they all really want to be there, but they're there because they really want to be. And they think that I have something to offer that could help them build a life they love. And when I connect to that, when I really visualize that thing of I'm just the lecturer, I'm just speaking about this thing. Now every video I make is with that in mind.
I like that lecture example. Creating that vision, it helps you, it may sound silly to some of you, and I've used certain practices, not exactly quite like that, but it can actually really shift your mindset.
So how do I connect to that? Rather than how do I connect to, ooh, the revenue per meal for this video is going to be high because it's a book about finance, and ooh, this video might get views because it's about how to start a business and everyone wants to start a business. And I'm like, when I start thinking in those ways, I start to get into this extrinsically motivated reason for doing the video. But when I think, hey, I'm just a lecturer here, I'm here to share stuff, then I think, okay, cool. What can I share from the heart that would genuinely help people? The default, if we don't think about this stuff actively, is to fixate on the numbers and the metrics that show up on YouTube stats and like the social media.
I also do realize that it's a lot easier to say these things when you already have a successful channel. So this is for those who have newer, smaller channels. I actually have quite a few friends who I talk to about this kind of thing. It's easy for us to say that once we're established as YouTubers. But when you're starting out, you want to focus on certain tactical things beyond just like, oh, I'm gonna do this for fun and like as a side project, hobby here and there, whenever I feel like, because then you're not gonna go anywhere. So you do have to have some kind of structure, a frequency of uploads, what type of video are you doing, your niche, how do you want to provide value, etc. When I started Med School Insiders, we grew really fast and our videos did really well, even though we didn't have very good production quality, because I focused, because it was just me at the time, so much on just providing value in those videos. That first ever video, pre-med study strategies, what I wish I knew in college. That's actually a really funny video for me because like years later, I remade the exact same video called Study Less, Study Smart. And I had multiple people saying, you copied aliabdaal's video. And I was like, bro, this is like a remake of my first ever video. What are you talking about? But by focusing so much on just delivering value, the channel grew organically. 0 to 100K, 5 months. 0 to 200K, 11 months. And that doesn't happen by accident. That happens when you are intentional about delivering value, about helping the other person, about being in service, right? But if you just kind of do it willy-nilly, like, oh, I'm gonna have fun with it, you need to find that balance point. And I understand Ali's brand, like the whole feel-good productivity and like have fun. I remember he was a guest on a podcast once and they're like, oh wow, like Ali, how are you so productive? How do you get so much done? And he's like, oh yeah, like, you know, it was before his book and he was like, oh, it was, I think it was like Indie Hackers perhaps. I have a lot of fun. I think it's about what you do. And then someone else butts in, they're like, hey man, like, I appreciate that, but like, let's be real. You also have a really fucking amazing team. I think it's not just you, it's your team too. And so I do want to be mindful here to not just focus on, I think, you know, Ali has this shtick. I respect that. We did a book summary on his book. It's not just about the fun. It's not just about feeling good. It's not just about those things. You need to balance that. And depending on the kind of person that you are, you need to figure out what side, where do you need to direct yourself more? Because if you are the person that focuses a little bit too much on the tactical, practical, the numbers, and you lose the fun and the magic from it, yeah, that's a problem. You need to go more towards fun. But if you're the kind of person that doesn't have any structure, you're super artistic and just like go with the flow and whatever you feel like, then you probably need to have a little bit more structure in your life.
So James Clear has sold a stupidly large number of copies of his book, Atomic Habits. He's made loads and loads of money, but he doesn't seem to be striving for more and more. He has not created an online course called the Atomic Habits Academy.
But I think didn't James Clear create a productivity course about like based on Atomic Habits?
He's got a wife and kids. He takes the kids to school and picks them up every single day and doesn't seem to be working too hard. He doesn't seem to be going for growth at all costs.
Yeah, I agree with that. Based on what I've seen with James Clear, he's very much like, it's almost as if he knows when he has enough and he does other stuff because he wants to, not because he's trying to one up his prior self, if that makes sense.
And what he said was really interesting. He was like, what I've realized is the thing that works for me is to draw a box. And within the context of that box, I have a block for work. His box is like, he knows he wants to be there as a present dad. He knows he wants to take his kids to school and pick them up. And so he knows that he only wants to work between like 10 a.m. and like 3 p.m. or something like that. This is the box that he's created around what he wants. He has defined constraints for himself. If he were to work harder to make an online course, it would probably go outside of those constraints. He would need a bigger team. He would need to become a manager. He's decided, screw that. I actually don't want that.
That's a really great way of thinking because too often people focus on how can they maximize their growth, maximize their professional success, maximize their business. And then they think, oh, once that happens, then I'll be happy. Then I'll focus on my health. But then you're gonna be 35, 40 years old, overweight, unhealthy, inactive, no friends, no hobbies. That's not the life you wanna live. You want to enjoy that journey too. So I understand the appeal of grinding really hard and focusing on just work at the expense of other things in your life. But I think that only makes sense for shorter periods of time. Maybe a few years, but usually for a few months at a time when you're younger, when you gotta focus on getting into med school, getting to residency. I get it, I've been there, I've done that. But at a certain point, you have to realize that there is no then. Your life is now. It's not that, oh, then I'll be happy, then I'm gonna enjoy, then it's gonna be better. Life is happening, like this moment right now is the life. And I remember having this conversation with a friend soon after I quit residency. I was like, oh shit. Yeah, I gotta make sure that I'm enjoying the process. Otherwise, what's the fucking point?
How do you think about spending your time in growth and business and stuff? And why don't you make a Atomic Habits Academy course? He was like, what I've realized is the thing that works for me is to draw a box around what I want my day and my life to look like. I have a block for work. And so he knows that he only wants to work between like 10 a.m. and like 3 p.m. or something like that. If you define the box as, I'm only allowed to work between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. and I'm never gonna work beyond that.
Damn, I should do that. I work on weekdays. I wake up and I work, and then I hit the gym or get on the bike, and then I work, and then I sleep. Which isn't the worst thing by any means, but that sounds great. I think those kinds of constraints are fantastic, but normally you need to be a lot further on in your career to justify that. Like for me right now, I can't justify working only 10 to 3. There's a lot of things I wanna do, a lot of growth, a lot of projects, a lot of things I'm really excited about to launch this year with our various companies. And on weekdays, yeah, I work most of the day, but I do have constraints. And those constraints are I'm sleeping 7 to 8 hours every night. If there's occasionally like a travel plan or some weird thing, okay, sure. But I'm sleeping 7 to 8 hours. I'm working out every day. There's certain things that I prioritize because those are important for the foundation that I'm trying to build for my life. But don't feel bad if you can't afford to work only 5 hours a day.
You can define whatever constraints you want, and within those constraints, you can find a way to get to the goal. Now, within those constraints, the goal might be unrealistic, in which case, great, let's change the goal. But it's like starting with lifestyle first. What is the life that you want? And then thinking about your business or your YouTube channel or your work second. Instead of going like, I want a YouTube channel to hit 10 million subscribers, and then thinking like, what life do I want? What is the life I want? And what is the YouTube channel or the business or the job that helps facilitate that without taking away from the actual lifestyle?
I like that. And don't be in a rush either. It's okay for it to take a long time to get to that life that you want. You want to enjoy that process because that process of getting there is probably going to take a while. Have fun. Life is the journey. The destination is just a blip in time.
Hey, I've decided I'm not going to have any deadlines on the videos. I've decided I'm going to film whatever videos I want rather than the videos I think the audience wants, although there's obviously a little bit of both there. These are the constraints that I've added to my life and to my business, which may well hinder growth, but they're constraints that help me live the life that I want, and the business then supports the life rather than the other way around.
One of the issues, if you become the face of your brand, of your business, of your YouTube channel, if you want to decrease your frequency, if you want to decrease your involvement in the future at some point, which you may not feel like you want right now, but maybe in the future, maybe in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, who knows? Can you? And that's one of the things I kept in mind when making decisions for Mystical Insiders. It's a faceless channel. Sure, there are some few videos way back when I showed my face, but it's now just a faceless channel and it's just my voice. But these are like the long-term things to keep in mind. This personal brand, this channel, yeah, I'm gonna do forever, but if you look at the videos on the first 5, 10, 15 videos on this channel versus the videos now, they're totally different because the whole point is creative expression. But I can only afford to do that, even though this channel doesn't make very much and it's small and, or small to medium, it's because I'm not relying on it.
Do you work for your business or does your business work for you? I definitely felt like I worked for my business. I felt like I was an employee of this business that I'd created and I didn't have too much autonomy. And over time, I've tried to get more to the point where I feel like my business works for me. I start with the life I want and the business helps facilitate that rather than the other way around. It's how do we get to a point where the videos, where we're not so reliant on the view count on videos. And this involves actually just building a business and like trying to build products that add value to people outside of kind of the value that the creator themselves.
Diversifying, baby.
But at some point, I may also quit YouTube. And as and when I do, that will also be okay. Everything will work out okay in the end. There's never any reason to worry, all that stuff. But I would like the decision to do that to not be a decision born out of pain, but a decision that's born out of a desire for something different. I don't want it to feel like, I'd love to continue doing YouTube, but it's just getting so painful that I'm just so tired of it. Instead, I'd love to feel like, you know what, it's actually been a great ride, and I'm even more excited about doing something else.
Thanks to Ali for creating a thought-provoking video. What do you agree or disagree with? Let me know with a comment down below. Much love. See you in the next one.